Hey there, it's Jeff Salzenstein, and in today's video, I want to tell you why I was wrong. I was wrong about Roger Federer, and I should have never doubted one of the greatest champions that has ever stepped onto a tennis court. Now, back in April of 2011, I predicted that Roger Federer would never be number one in the world again. And let me tell you, I've taken a lot of heat since he became number one after winning Wimbledon this year in 2012. Now, I gave my 5 reasons for why Roger Federer would never be number one. And of course, when he did become number one, everybody jumped on YouTube. I should say a lot of people jumped on YouTube to tell me how wrong I was. And some of those players and coaches and fans out there did not say very nice things about me. And for whatever reason, I've never been one to go out on a limb and or actually take the time to tell people that they're wrong. I think it's wasted energy to do that. But hey, whatever works for some people, if they want to feel like they're right and I'm wrong, that's okay. I'm here to admit that I was wrong and I underestimated Roger Federer. I have deep respect for him as a player. I practiced with him in Toronto, Canada several years ago, and I've always felt he's a great champion, and I love him as a player, and he's a great person. And I was just basically giving everyone my reasons why I didn't think it was going to happen. And I want to go through some of those reasons and some of the shifts that happen that I did not predict. And sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. I'll be the first to admit that I've failed in many things in my life, but the important thing is to learn from it and keep moving forward. And in this case, I want to go through the reasons why I was wrong. So first of all, I said that he was older, and that is a common theme in today's game, that as you get older, usually you decline. Just look at a guy like Andy Roddick. He's getting older and he's not playing as well. But really what it comes down to, it's not really age. Oftentimes it's that commitment level, and it's that focus on training and getting the right people around you. And I think that's what Roger has done the past year and a half. At the time that I said that he would never be number one again, he had hired Paul Annacone about 4 to 6 months prior, actually back in August of 2010. So they had been together for about 6 months. And really, it took him about 1.5 to 2 years to get Paul Annacone's voice inside of his head to do more things, the chip and charge that he used at Wimbledon, moving forward more. That took some time to implement because for the 2 years prior, he was without a coach. And that's what I was noticing back in 2011, that he didn't quite have the direction he needed. So that was one big shift that he made. He got great coaching, and he obviously was a hard worker before, but I have a feeling that Roger Federer got in better shape than he was at the time that I made that prediction. And again, it's a tribute to him as a champion. He didn't go right off in the sunset once he became 30 years old. He decided to recommit himself with his coaching and with his training. The other reason that I pointed out was that his family might, I wouldn't say distract him, but his priorities would shift now that he had 2 children. The opposite has happened. Many times players have a family, a wife, a girlfriend, kids, and then they start to think about what's life like after tennis. And the ranking drops and they end up moving on to other things in their life. But Roger did the opposite. He actually surrounded himself, again, with a great team. His wife is very supportive, and his kids are in the mix, and they've created a situation where they're actually together on this, rather than him feeling like he's on the road playing tournaments when he'd rather be at home. So they've done a wonderful job as a family making that happen, and I didn't predict that. I thought that Roger had achieved everything he needed to achieve, and that he would start to focus more on maybe being at home more, and that's just not the case. And I was completely wrong about that. And again, I commend him because not many players can do what he's done at this stage in his career. I also said at the time of the video that I made of why he would never be number one again is that guys like Djokovic and Nadal are just more physical. And I still maintain that they are more physical athletes. Federer is a different type of athlete. Don't get me wrong, he's very physical, but his artistry and his grace and his athleticism, it's almost a softer athleticism, which I love. He's like a ballet dancer out there. And I felt like that he wasn't moving as well 1.5 years ago. And again, I would have to say, just recommitting to his training and his fitness. Not that he wasn't before. He was always in good shape, but I think he's in a lot better shape now. I think he's stronger, and I think that his trainers and his physios have come up with a plan to probably test and tweak and to improve. All the best players are doing that, and he's no exception. Now, the other point that I made is that Roger Federer would need a bigger serve, a more dominant serve to be able to get back to number one, because guys like Pete Sampras, who basically had the best serve of all time, he could rely on his serve to get free points. And I felt like Roger would need a bigger serve to be able to win more Grand Slams and be number one in the world. And of course, he's proven me wrong there, is that his serve is obviously awesome. It's one of the best serves of all time, but it's not a dominating serve. He still wins points from the backcourt, obviously with his forehand and his backhand, and he gets free points here and there with his serve. But he was able to do so without creating a dominant serve, and it's just a tribute to his movement, to his forehand, to his overall skill, and obviously his mental toughness. So I was wrong about that on the serve. And the last point that I made is that his one-handed backhand was not as good as a guy like Djokovic or even Nadal, in that he gets into that pattern with a guy like Nadal, forehand to his backhand, and he's not going to win that pattern. And even against a guy like Andy Murray, Murray's backhand is better than Federer's backhand. Djokovic, the same thing. So basically, Federer has the fourth best backhand of the top four players in the world at the time of this video. And I really felt that one-hander was going to limit him from becoming number one. I still say that after Roger Federer decides to move on, there will not be another number one player in the world with a one-handed backhand. Now, a lot of you out there are going to disagree with me. Of course, I'm admitting today that I'm completely wrong about me predicting that he would never be number one, but the concept there is that the game is becoming so physical, and the two-hander is such an offensive weapon on the backhand side, that I really think you need two hands on the racket to play at the highest level. And it just shows again how great Roger Federer is to be able to ascend to number one with a one-handed backhand. Now, a lot of people ripped me in this video a year and a half ago about what I said, but if you read between the lines, if you really listen carefully, I was not bashing Roger Federer. I simply said that he would not be number one, but some other things that I said is that he would not be as dominant as he had been in the past, and that is true. This Wimbledon in 2012 is the first Grand Slam that he's won in a couple of years, when he used to win 3 Grand Slams in a row. I also made a point of just acknowledging how great Roger Federer was. It's essentially a tribute to him. Every time I do a video, I'm acknowledging how great he was, how great he is, and just I want everybody to embrace him as a player. Even if you're not a huge Roger Federer fan, he has come along at a golden age in tennis. He has raised the bar. He's gotten these other guys to play better, and that's something that I acknowledged in the last video, and I want to point out today that he's just such a great example for the pro game and for all tennis players out there. I really think that the biggest thing that helped Roger get to number one is that he was still eager to improve and get better. And you don't always see that with players that are older. And I wasn't sure that he was going to do that after some of the adversity that he faced. Now, I also said in the last video that he would have a few more great years left in him. And I still believe that. I actually think that he can play to 34 or 35 and play in the Olympics in Rio in 4 years. Tommy Haas has proven that at age 34 you can play great tennis. I also said that he might only have 1 or 2 Grand Slams left in him, and that still might be true, and that he might never win a Grand Slam on a hard court. I'd like to see how he does at this upcoming U.S. Open in 2012, but his only Grand Slam in the last 2 years is Wimbledon. So he still has a chance to win a few more on the grass, but I'm not sure how many more he can win on a hard court. So, in short, Roger Federer, I was wrong about you. I really appreciate your work ethic, your commitment to the game, you being able to do it with your family, you wanting to get better at a later stage in your career, and getting a coach. That's the big thing. He got Paul Annacone, and I think that was the magic bullet. That and his fitness level, those were the things that helped him get back to number one in the world and develop that consistency that he had several years ago. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. And again, for all of you Roger Federer fans out there, I'm sorry for being wrong on that prediction. I know I'm not going to be right every time with my predictions or even all of my tennis tips, but we sure do our best over at Jeff Salzenstein Tennis. So go ahead and check out our website. You can click the link below if you want to see all the great tennis tips that we share, and we've got some great programs to help all of you out there, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. We'll talk soon.